Pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023, this meeting will be conducted in person as in remote means in accordance with applicable laws. Every effort will be made to ensure the public can adequately assess the proceedings to the best of our technical abilities and despite our best efforts due to lack of technical infrastructure. A transcript and other comprehensive reporting of the proceedings will be available as soon as possible after the meeting. And calling this meeting to order. Welcome, everyone. I think a number of the agenda items are getting tabled because departments don't have, some departments listed don't have capital requests, so I think that's, Mary, correct me if I'm wrong, treasurer collector, conservation, and planning are both, we're tabling those three.
Correct.
Awesome, so we can jump right to school.
I think we need to call this meeting to order because we had a form.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, yes. So, school committee, I thought to begin to order. That's official.
Yeah.
I think you have to vote it. Give first second.
Andrew.
No, they.
Are you joining the audio?
No,
Feedback.
they made you read it. I don't have it in front of me. I believe you have to.
Just say, get out first for a minute. Yeah.
Okay. Just like Alex just read around.
The technical infrastructure, I think,
Yes.
I think you're covered under our umbrella.
Great, great.
So,
Can we go around the room for names?
yes,
Thank you.
yeah, I think that probably makes sense. Yeah, we'll just do a quick around the room with introductions. Actually, Frank, do you want to start this way and we'll go around?
Yeah, my name's Frank Holden. I'm on the fiscal advisory committee.
Andrew Marshall, Fiscal Advisory Committee. Alex Chen, Chair, Fiscal Advisory.
Frank Weiler, Finance Committee.
Betsy Sullivan, Finance. Katie Clary, School Committee. Laurel Deegan, School Committee.
Catherine Marshall, School Committee. Beth Wilcox, Assistant Superintendent of the Schools. Danielle Klingerman, Superintendent.
Lisa Freely, Director of Business and Finance at the School Department.
Katie St. Clair, Facility Director for the town.
And I know we have two members on online, Karen and Adam Earl, Karen Berry and Adam Earl.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else online that we need to introduce that?
Hi, Alex. This is Mary McKinnon. I'm the finance director.
Perfect. We all know you.
Sean's there.
I like to be part of the party.
Son, this is the schools.
Perfect.
I'll make it for us.
All right,
So is it okay if I share my screen?
absolutely.
Okay.
Also, Cheryl Lewis will be joining us. She's just coming from a previously scheduled appointment.
Perfect.
Okay, so I guess I can begin, and so thank you for having us attend your fiscal advisory committee meeting this evening. We first presented this presentation to school committee on October 9th. And since that October 9th, there's just one update due to a project that was able to be funded through another means besides through capital. So that would be the only adjustment since our school committee meeting.
Okay.
And I think Lisa is going to take over.
Yep. Sorry. So before we jump into our 2026 needs, I'd like to recap our fiscal year 25 capital equipment and projects that were funded. Funded at the annual town meeting, the district received funding for the grade 6 to 12 Chromebooks. This purchase was made as a 4-year lease for 1,700 devices. We also received funding for switches, ports, access points, and security cameras throughout the district. HVAC, which is heating, ventilation, and air conditioning, and enclosing the high school open classrooms. Next. In addition to these projects, given the district's needs were significant, the town also allocated ARPA, which is the American Rescue Plan Act funds. It had received to complete some repairs and updates at Alden, including a number of priority roof sections, HVAC in communal bathrooms, and a new PA system at Alden and at Chandler. Funding towards a completion of phase one safety and security projects and additional safety and security projects. And we also just received funding towards the Onion softball field at the Steel Complex, which has been removed from our 26 plan. Lastly, we shared at the special town meeting in October of 2022 and the annual town meetings going forward, the district receives PEG funds, which are obtained from 1% of cable franchise fees, which is dedicated to capital assets associated with the operation of a public educational and governmental television channel. We also want to share that we used some of these funds to update the DHS Dragon TV studio, as you'll see in this picture. Next slide. So moving on, so these are some additional pictures for our FY25 recap. So this was the progress of the open classrooms at the high school. Our tech team with the 1,700 devices. And, okay, hang on. So moving on to our capital needs, we focus on 3 capital budget categories: capital light, capital requests under $10,000. Sorry, capital requests that are under $10,000, capital equipment, which is one-time or infrequent purchases with a useful life of 5 years or more, and capital projects, which are projects that help maintain or improve existing school assets. Our process consists of reviewing our 5-year plan, which includes new and existing capital items to ensure that the ongoing relevance of the plan and prioritizing those items based on need and alignment to district goals. We use an asset-based replacement model, which supports the maintenance of critical equipment in good condition and promotes a systemic replacement to avoid unexpected failures and facilitate effective and timely implementation of projects through a predictable replacement schedule, which enhances budgeting and resource allocation for sustained operations. We also include smaller projects or equipment on our capital plan to maintain sight of them should additional funding become available to knock these smaller projects out or items out. Our prioritized needs for this capital budget cycle include elementary curriculum, which Dr. Wilcox will discuss shortly, district technology, and several facilities items, including ongoing roof repairs, abatement, HVAC, the wheelchair ramp at Chandler, loading dock, concrete slab at Chandler, and bird netting at Chandler. The Onion softball field improvements have been removed from this list since our school committee meeting on October 9th after having received the ARPA funds. In addition to the above prioritized items, several additional capital needs are not included in the FY26 priority requests, and these can be seen here just for reference. So moving on to the specific FY26 requested items, let's start with Dr. Wilcox to discuss our curriculum needs.
I'll just leave these up for a moment or two in case anyone is reading along.
For our curriculum last year, we participated as a district in an ELA and the math curriculum review. It was a year-long process, a school year-long process, and we had a committee that was made up of students, staff. We also had parents and grandparents who were volunteering on the committees and had a resource who worked with us to evaluate our programming. As part of that evaluation, we received a report, and one of the recommendations of the report was to pursue pilots for programming for elementary literacy. The elementary literacy program we have right now is strong. We have evidence-based programs in phonics and phonemic awareness, the foundational skills. And so we are looking to, we are currently piloting programs that are comprehensive and have a coherent instruction in not only the foundational skills, but also vocabulary comprehension and writing. So as a district, we've also been focusing on writing, and so we are piloting programs. And so this proposal is for the purchase of an elementary literacy program that would be implemented in kindergarten through grade 5 for fiscal year 26. In addition, there is the Duxbury High School math programming. We implemented illustrative math at the middle school this year. And so the math programming would be to continue the illustrative math programs at the high school in the areas of geometry and algebra 2. Last year, the illustrative math program was purchased through a DESI grant. So DESI had grants available for evidence-based programming, and Duxbury applied for a grant and was awarded the grant. And that is how we purchased the middle school illustrative math programming during the year 25.
Any other
Technology.
questions?
Leah,
The grants, do you have to establish some kind of a plan as to how to continue the programs after the grants run out? Or are the grants on for a number of years?
So the grant is for the purchase of up to 5 years of the programming. And so because we did receive the grant, we purchased 5 years of the illustrative math. So we will have that resource for 5 years at the middle school. And so that allows us professional development, the resources for our students for the next 5 years.
And then you don't need any more money after that for that program? You build it into your own.
So after the 5 years, that we will continue to evaluate the resource and ensure that it's the appropriate instructional materials for our students. And also evaluate what funding resources we need to either continue the program or whether we need to look at other instructional materials.
And how much of the program does the cost versus the amount that you're asking from the town?
So for the math program last year,
Either program,
it depends on, so for example, the math program last year was a matching grant. So if you had up to a certain amount and then the DESI would ask you to match that grant. But for the curriculum purchase with elementary, as of right now, DESI does not have any grants that would be available for elementary literacy. But we can continue to monitor that and try to pursue anything that would come up.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Chair, could I ask a question?
Yeah, absolutely.
The uninitiated, when you say you're buying a program, what's entailed in the program? There's textbooks, but there's probably an awful lot of other support that goes with it. Could you just explain what comes with it?
Absolutely, I'm happy to. So this past summer, our teachers participated in 2 full days of professional development. In addition to that, they also have bi-weekly coaching that's available to them for half an hour. And we'll have an additional full day of professional development this year. The next 2 years, we will have 2 days of professional development from the company that our teachers will participate in as part of the initial purchase. Everything that we have for the next 5 years was part of that initial purchase that was completed last year through the grant funding. In addition to the professional development for the teachers and the ongoing support, there's also ongoing support for the math curriculum supervisor. So he also has a coach as part of this implementation. We have student workbooks that our students are using in grades 6 through 8. In addition to that, we have online resources that our students are using and our teachers are using. And then there are different manipulatives that are also associated with the program.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I think that would be similar for the programs that we have. It would come with paper copies, workbooks, training for the teachers, as well as the digital resources and assessments and different practice activities that students would do.
The textbooks, math, I think, what?
I was gonna say, Brandon, for now.
So no, and we actually had the option to go completely digital with this past purchase. And we didn't. We chose to also purchase the workbook materials. We think it's important to have a balance of both. So we do have online resources. We have online materials that are available to parents as well as resources. But we do believe it's important to have that balance.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Alex, is it now? Well, capital, your group is now funding these as capital purchases, even though they're programmatic as opposed to.
I was waiting, so sort of the
Oh, I'm
end
sorry.
to address it, but like, yeah, we haven't seen. A request like this come across our desk.
Okay, so it's not just me, okay, all right.
I will say recently, we've had a curriculum that has been district developed, and so some of the resources would not be of the magnitude that this purchase was in association with the grant that we had. So for example, at the elementary level, we had maybe textbooks that were purchased, novels, and our teachers were generating the curriculum maps and the curriculum materials, and the teachers were doing a lot of that work and have done a lot of that work. And we were bringing in professional development that was contracted services and separate. So we were piecing a lot of it together. Whereas this is a larger purchase that is more encompassing of the professional development, the materials, the resources, the support for our teachers.
I'm not questioning your intent,
Okay.
there's just categories, capital is a certain item.
Mhm.
Not, and then capital
Right.
light, and then operation, there's other, and this isn't a traditional fit for capital, that was my point.
Okay.
I admire the fact that you're working on trying to improve the educational material that you have and skills that you have. I do wonder, I don't need to know the answer to the question, but I do wonder if you have with these programs an accompanied method to understand how successful they are or where their problems are occurring, so that you have confidence in yourself that this was a worthy endeavor.
We do have assessments that are associated with the programs, but in addition to the assessments that are associated with the programs, we have other assessments that we use with our students to monitor their progress, their growth, and their areas where they continue to need support. So we do have different assessments that we use to monitor how students are doing, and then in turn to look at, is the student succeeding, and we look at trends. So are students succeeding because the program is strong in a certain area, or do we have weaknesses because the program is weak in an area? And so we do look at that to ensure that the teachers are then adjusting based on what the students need.
We also use MCAS results for that, and that's one area that compares us to schools across the state.
Right.
And over the past few years, the MCAS test continues to get to be more challenging for the students, and so it's important that we evaluate our curriculum needs to make sure that our curriculum is best aligned with the state frameworks. So that is one other measure that we use to see how our students are doing on the MCAS assessment, because if we're doing a good job of teaching and learning and making sure that our students are getting the education within the state frameworks, that tells us if we have particular areas that we're not doing as well. And so,
And these programs grew out of an assessment process that resulted in the assumption that we need to improve those areas, correct?
Yeah,
Thank you.
definitely,
Very
and I
helpful.
think that the Department of Education has also, over the past few years, started to look at curriculums that individual communities are using, and they use something called Curate, and it's a curriculum. They started off by saying that we're going to just give resources to school communities to see what curriculums people are using, so that you can have school districts that are reaching out to other school districts that are using similar curriculums. But with that, they also started to give school districts whether they provided a list of curriculum programs that are considered to be high quality curriculum materials. And so it's become a lot of pressure for school departments to look at your curriculum, even if you're supplementing it and doing a wonderful job with the instruction. If your programs aren't listed on that Curate website, it's very concerning to families, because we need to make sure that we're providing evidence-based, high-quality curriculum materials. And so many districts who have developed their own curriculum, obviously, that wouldn't be an approved high-quality curriculum materials. And so we're now having to make sure that any program that we pilot or consider for our district is one of the DESE approved curriculums that is found to be in alignment with our Mass State frameworks. And so that was part of the pilot process. And so we visited other school departments, school districts and schools who had implemented programs, and we got feedback from the teachers and from the students about whether they have had a nice implementation and a smooth implementation into the new program, or whether they found that there were deficiencies with the programs that they've gone with. So we are moving towards that comprehensive curriculum approach that doesn't leave it up to individual grade levels in schools to create their own curriculum materials.
Before we go down any further down this detail level, which is, I think, just from a committee perspective and kind of, again, back up to the strategic plan and what the intention is behind the request that you're seeing in front of you, I think whether this is considered for capital or not, I think I go back to the definition of, you know, one-time or infrequent purchases with a useful life of 5 years or more. I think to answer your question, in addition to kind of qualifying that piece, is that, Beth, remind me how often we do the curriculum reviews?
5 years.
Every 5 years. So that's a district level curriculum review, which we actually just completed, which is what she was speaking about. So that's the evaluation of, is this program working? How is it going? Do we need to do some track changes? The assessments that you're speaking to in the interim are, can we tweak within our PD and our teaching of that curriculum and make those adjustments accordingly? But it isn't a mistake that, you know, every 5 years we want to do kind of a big, you know, pull back out and take a look and review of whether this is working for us or not. And I think the other piece here that you see with the addition to the high school is another thing that's sort of critically important from a vertical alignment perspective, which is a key piece of our strategic plan. So we were fortunate enough to determine the best path forward from the curriculum review, which was K-12. And we were able to get a grant for the middle school program. However,
I'm so sorry.
this is to address this issue of ensuring that we have alignment, you know, from K-12. We'll get to K-5 math, hopefully at a later date. Right now, the focus is, and this is quite frankly driven by some pretty major concerns from the community and generally around MCAS scores in the middle school. We knew that was something that we needed to work on. And now this sort of elevating it to that alignment piece is where you see the high school request coming in.
That's really, I agree completely with what Laurel just shared. And I will say that there are times when we do a curriculum review that we don't recommend an adjustment in programs that we're using. It's not every 5 years we have to scrap what we've been working with. So if the program continues to be effective and our students are doing well, there are many instances where we don't adjust any of the curriculum resources we've invested in. But at this particular time, due to some concerns, lagging scores, flat scores, concerns about our MCAS, and certainly post-pandemic, we wanted to make sure our students are getting the most high-quality curriculum materials available to them as possible. We are in need at this time of some new curriculum programs. And it was brought to my attention from people that had worked in the district that it has been a while since a program had been purchased and they had brought forward curriculum requests to capital in the past. So I don't believe, and we'd have to look back to some of the older capital requests to see the last time this had happened, but we haven't made major purchases in recent years.
Just I guess a couple of questions. So can you give me just like the 50,000-foot view of like how does a curriculum get built? Like in today's world, how does a curriculum get built? What are sort of the artifacts and that go along with that? And what would change? Is this just like that stuff gets scrapped and this fully replaces that, or do you keep some of the stuff you've used before? Like just
Those are all decisions that are made during the review and the pilot process. So that is why we look at different materials, and as Dr. Klingeman said, we only look at materials and consider materials that have been approved through Curate or Ed reports as evidence-based. And so the programs, I think the question you're asking is it a la carte for the whole program? Is that what you're asking? Like,
I guess, you know, I guess my bigger question is like, if this doesn't get approved, like, what do you do?
So if this does not become approved, then we're using what we have.
Okay.
And so what we have and what we have been using has been teacher generated, and our teachers do a phenomenal job. We have curriculum maps and they're pulling from different resources. The goal and the outcomes from the curriculum reviews that we conducted last year
showed us that at the middle school, all of our math instruction was teacher created. And so because we wanted to ensure that we were addressing the math practices that are in our curriculum frameworks and standards, and because math instruction has changed, and we want to focus not only on procedures of math, but also understanding of math, that has shifted, and so the instruction has shifted. What this program does is it focuses on the math practices and those instructional shifts, as well as bringing together the synthesis for the students. So they're getting the understanding, not just the MX plus B and
Yeah.
all of the
Yeah.
formulas. For when, if a purchase is not made, what happens is we continue to use the work that the teachers have done, and they put a tremendous amount of work together. But they're using their planning time, professional development time, time after school. They're using all of that time to source their materials and to put things together. And so that time is then not collaborating with colleagues, or, you know, they're then going day by day. And then what we find is that the experiences for our students can be different in different classrooms, depending on the materials that the teachers are using. And so our teachers, again, do a phenomenal job, but we're looking to help support the teachers to help ensure the instruction is aligned with the frameworks that we currently have. And to make sure that the work is coherent and evidence-based, so that when a student starts in kindergarten, their education is progressing and building, and they're receiving that coherent instruction.
I mean, I don't wanna go too far down the rabbit hole, but I mean,
I can help.
I mean, certainly one question that comes to mind is that. We've all had teachers with different teaching styles. So like, does a sort of I don't want to use the wrong terms, but you know, a pre-programmed curriculum, like, does it give the teacher flexibility to teach in their style, with their voice, and
Yes, and what I would say is, especially now we're finding with the new programs, it's. Our teachers are working so hard right now because there are so many components to the new resources. And so we're asking them to learn all of the different components. And then what happens is, once they do learn the components, then they will know what are the non-negotiables of the program that you use with all students. And then once you have a certain student who may need something different, then they know what are the different materials or the go-tos that they can use with that particular student. So that is where we have the non-negotiables and ensuring that our core instruction is coherent for all students. But then it's the teacher craft comes in, and knowing a student might need something different, something in addition to, or a different way of it being addressed. And that's where they pull from the different resources from the core program.
And I would just add to that, I think sometimes when you purchase a curriculum program, you wonder if it's a canned approach and everyone is just reading off of a script. But I think that part of our strategic plan is to be able to offer our students more hands-on approach. And when you have a curriculum program that's comprehensive this way, it's scientifically research-based, instead of, all of us are trained as educators and we can teach the curriculum to the curriculum frameworks, but none of us are scientists that can write a math textbook ourselves to know the appropriate, what needs to be taught first, and then what comes after that, and how do I circle back to that concept that happened at the beginning of the year? So to add to what Beth was saying, having a comprehensive program allows the teachers to have a roadmap from the beginning of the year to the end of the year, that they're not guessing at when this skill should be taught, because it's been research-based and it's in alignment with our state frameworks. So they know that if I follow this curriculum the way it is presented to us, I'm going to cover all of the skills so that my students will be able to be successful in the MCAS test at the end of the year. But what's also nice about these programs is, as you were saying, that they're pulling from so many different resources online and they're taking a lesson from here and there. It's taking so much time to be able to create the materials themselves, that this really just streamlines their instruction, because within these programs, they'll have For students who are not quite there with mastering a particular skill, they'll give you intervention resources. And for kids that need extensions on that skill, they'll give you resources for that. So it allows the teachers to just have that roadmap and not have to feel like a textbook author at the same time that they're trying to instruct. At the middle school especially, they have well over 100 students often that they're instructing math or whatever their content area is.
Question, hopefully this isn't a silly question. Are there different vendors for these programs, like, is there like a BMW versus a Chevy in this?
There's always a lot of programs. There's some publishers that seem to have a monopoly on a lot of the ed curriculum. But there definitely are multiple resources to choose from, and they all have strengths and weaknesses. So there's no such thing as a perfect program. And so what one school district may select that works well for them may not fit well into our district. So that's why it's important to be able to shop around, to be able to see who locally and even more beyond the South Shore region is using these different programs, and to get into the classrooms to see them in use. There are definitely some that come with more resources, which can at times be overwhelming, and so you're trying to find that balance of which one is the best ease of use, but also provides all of the different components of teaching that you need within the program. And that's where you're talking to other teachers from different school districts is a really helpful part of the pilot process.
You have a very complicated problem. You have really 4 domains of concern that you have to sort of worry with, and I'm probably underestimating the complexity. I did have some experience working with the National Board of Medical Examiners in the evaluation side of all of the educational programs, definitely for medical schools and nursing schools. And you have the curriculum for sure, the teacher, the student. I think of it as a child's ecology, where how their world is structured. So I appreciate you trying to having the ability to be able to evaluate those various different parts of the problem is an important issue. I'm not happy with hearing that the programs will in some sense things, because you have the other 3 mentions. That's no comment. My real question is this your first priority?
Yeah, these are all in priority
Okay.
order. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that it's not necessarily in order of priority in terms of what our capital requests are for the year. I think that we definitely put off some items that were of priority. For example, Alden School generator is something that if we continue to lose power frequently on the 180 school days, first thing in the morning, that becomes a big issue. But I think in terms of what we believe we need for next year for our students, the curriculum is definitely up there. I would rather see this item prioritized, and if we can, I don't want to speak for Cheryl, who's not here yet, in terms of technology. If we have to prioritize other things, I would rather see this prioritized. But to your other point, I think you're exactly right, that teaching is a craft, and it's not one program that's needs of every student.
Hey, Matt, can you mute, please?
Sure.
This is just one tool that will hopefully have more of our students. When you look at a medical board exam, colleges are trying to make sure that they have the highest pass rate for their students in terms of when they complete this course or this training. And I think we're doing the same thing. We want our students to have mastery of the grade level curriculum before they are advanced to the next grade. And so with current research about how students learn best, it's just important that we continue to look at what programs we're using. For example, a reading program that was purchased in 2003 definitely had different emphasis than what you would see in 2024 in terms of what we know now about how students learn best and dyslexia and all of the different brain-based research that takes place. So we believe this is just one factor that would help our students' outcome and our teachers be able to be most effective.
Is there an ongoing servicing fee for this program, or is this one-time number in for 5 years? Or do they hit you with an annual servicing fee that update the programs, or maybe bring you something new they discover they want to add to the program?
Typically, when you purchase for the 5 years, everything would be included. So you would make sure that when you sign the agreement with the company, that if they come up with any updates, if there's anything that's new, to their, if they have any additions, then you can negotiate that into what you purchase. And so that's something that we pursue, is to ensure that we are always, receiving the material that's most up to date within the years of the subscription. So for example, with the math, everything is inclusive for the next 5 years. You're welcome.
I think it's important for the community to note as well as when you're making curriculum purchases, often a 1-year agreement will be much more expensive than if you do a 5-year option. And so when you look, if you were to break down the cost over 5 years, as opposed to what they would charge if we were to implement a new program for 1 year, it's considerably more cost effective to do a longer term commitment to the, they would rather have us sign a 5-year commitment than, so it's good for them and it's good for us that we are having a lower cost of the overall purchase of a program.
You barely know the results after this 1 year anyways.
Right. There is an implementation dip and then you'd hope after that you'd start to see some gains.
I guess. What, are there other subjects that you would be thinking about in the out years of a curriculum like this? Like, a curriculum purchase like this?
It's my understanding that the last time that a curriculum purchase was made in ELA that was big, such as this, is 2009 for a reading program. After that, the district, it's my understanding that the district removed 2 materials that were following the reader writer workshop model, which is, again, the teacher is doing the pulling of the materials and putting together the instruction. So that's the last time that the district, again, that's just to my understanding, has purchased a larger program. This would be for ELA for the next 5 years, potentially longer moving forward. With the math purchase at the middle school last year, we had teacher generated materials. And so there wasn't a program that we were pulling from. And so that is the reason why we started. We do have a larger program, Envision Math, that was purchased, I believe, 6 or 7 years ago at the elementary level. And because we purchased the middle school math program, we held off on doing anything for the elementary because we did have a program that was in place. And so that is something that we have tried to look at, what is the annual expense just to keep that going. There isn't professional development associated with it. It's purely a workbook purchase if that. And so the thought would be that after we also, for the elementary, if we're looking at implementing an elementary curriculum next year, that is a tremendous amount of work for our teachers to be learning a new program, implementing a new program. And we wouldn't want to then move into math in the math realm at the same time. So it would be another 2 years, 3 years, and then that may be a time where we could look at our math programming. What we are doing in the interim is ensuring that we're providing professional development to the teachers of best practices in math instruction, while using the program that was purchased 6 or 7 years ago to continue that.
Are there any more curriculum purchases on your roadmap going out? Like, are we evaluating, or are we not sort of at that 5-year reevaluation stage yet?
We're always evaluating the curriculum, I would say. In other areas, it's a smaller purchase. So it's not to the extent of the amount of students that the curriculum is purchased for. So it may be something that is a smaller purchase that is made. So I can give an example. For example, a new curriculum that is coming out, that has come out, is investigating history. A lot of it is free materials, there's professional development, you can find grants, so you can do that in smaller ways. And you can incrementally implement that, and so there are other ways in smaller sections that you would do it. But as far as large program, one-time purchases for 5 years or more, it's typically ELA math, and you typically see it more at elementary, middle school, or elementary and middle school at the same time.
We're always looking for free resources that are high quality, evidence-based and aligned. And it was really nice to see that Desi did that matching grant for a couple of years, and so we're always looking out for grants that may be able to supplement when we have some changes that we want to make to minimize coming to the town to ask for additional funds. If there's anything that we can do through grants, we always take advantage of that. And Dr. Wilcox actually got hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of grants last year, which enabled us to do a lot with the career pathways, with this new middle school math program. So that's definitely something that we're mindful of, so that we don't have to ask frequently for large scale purchases like this one.
All right, any other curriculum questions? All right,
Okay, I'll just do a quick segue. Our technology request this year includes access points, which is phase 3 of ongoing efforts to update end-of-life access points at Alden. Refreshing devices for the administrative assistant staff and grade 5 students. Repairing and or replacing classroom sound systems at Alden and Chandler, and replacing some projectors as phase 1 of a multi-year project throughout the district. And technology requests for this year for FY 26 totals $300,000.
I'll just add that access points are, for anyone that's not a techie, I'm sure Alex, you are well aware of what an access point is, but for anyone listening, access points allow our Wi-Fi systems to run in all of the different schools, and we frequently will have hundreds and probably thousands of students and staff that are streaming and they're accessing curriculum materials, and so having strong Wi-Fi is essential for instruction in 2024, and all of our assessments, many of our assessments, including MCAS, we need to have updated Wi-Fi and computer systems that are in alignment. They're always giving us new operating system requirements for our devices so that we can actually take advantage of state assessments with our system. And so anyone didn't know what that was. And so Cheryl, I don't know if you had anything to add about technology. She's here back on behalf of the technology replacement button.
So we're just replacing the ones that need to be replaced.
I guess I didn't realize the 5th graders had Chromebooks at this point. I assume they stay in school.
So yes, the
Yes.
3rd, 4th, and 5th graders have Chromebooks. They do not take them home until 6th grade. And currently, our students are using at the elementary level refurbished MacBook Airs from the middle and high school students from years ago. So we reconfigure those to be Chromebooks. And so those aren't as reliable as we would like because they are pretty old. So we had done the 6 to 12 replacement last year with new Chromebooks, and we're hoping to do one grade level at a time down to 3rd grade.
Is it the same, if I remember correctly, each classroom sort of has a cart of Chromebooks?
Yes.
How many are we talking for per grade? Is it like a couple, like 200? Something like that?
Approximately.
I have one quick question on that, if I may.
Yeah, please.
Okay, great, thank you. This is on the sound system repair replacement. So for coming to school committee, I'm Catherine Marshall, by the way, I didn't introduce myself to you. I was on the DEF. And there was a student-led grant last year that was very thorough and broad regarding the sound system, and
Yes.
my impression when I was sitting in the DEF chair was that this was of the attention of the district and it was being looked at. And I'm just wondering, we're all thinking of ways that we can generate funds and not have to ask the town for more money if the DEF could be a place that we readdress that particular issue.
So the sound system in the pack is on our request that we weren't able to include, and so this is a little bit different. That this is for some sound systems within the classroom that the students would be using that enhances the ability to hear the speaker and to hear the other students speaking. Okay, the sound system request for the pack that the DEF received a grant for was for replacement of some of the microphones, but what we found is that that's a really extensive project for the pack, and so I think we're still working on getting quotes for that, and that wasn't something that we were able to prioritize. So
That's
budget.
different.
That's separate from that. These were for classrooms that would impact all students.
Okay.
As opposed to the issues we had with the microphone, so we're looking to improve the sound in the pack overall, but we don't have that as a capital request at this time.
Right. So we've started looking into it. We're having companies assess it. As a matter of fact, we have someone from one of the companies coming in at one of the concerts or town meeting to assess the sound level up in the way back. Because we think that the sound isn't going all the way, carrying all the way up to the back and is getting pulled towards the sides.
Okay.
So we're working on that.
But it may be in the future that we do look to DES and for some of those larger scale requests, if we can have, even if we do it over a period of time, to just let them know that this is a need that we have, that we do this in phases, to work with different grant sources for that kind of project.
Yeah, because I know there was interest in helping with that.
And I think, totally, and I think anyone that's attended a drama production or even a ceremony, that it can be difficult for families to even hear when their students' names are being called, and I think anyone that's seen a drama production, you have all these students that are doing such a fabulous job, and then one of the roles in the cast, their microphone stops working in the middle of their part on the stage, so that's definitely a priority for the kids.
Thank you. We're going to turn it over to Katie St. Clair to talk about the school department facility needs.
So one of the items we asked for is we asked for $20,000 for the next couple of years to remove the rest of the asbestos. The state used to tell you as long as the asbestos was wrapped and tight, it's fine, don't worry about it. Now they're urging us to slowly come up with a plan to mitigate it and get it out of the building. So we're not gonna start ripping down walls and getting in between the concrete and the fascia board. But we should do some of the areas where you have ceiling tiles and the glue dogs are asbestos, or the floor tile is. So that would take care of the remaining asbestos at Alden and Chandler. The wheelchair ramp at Chandler Elementary School, what has happened is the water has gotten down into the cracks and it froze and expanded, and now the wall is falling apart. We also have some damage from heavy salt use on the bottom of the ramp. And when they originally designed it, they made the drainage come out the side of this cool flower pot, but nobody thought the water's gonna come out and land on the stairs, and now we have cracking and splitting at the stairs as well. So this would be to redesign and build that ramp. This next to the left of that ramp is the loading dock to the Chandler Elementary School. And it's concrete, I mean, it's it's concrete pads. And the drainage that runs along the front of that, it has cracked and fallen in. The only way to fix that now is we have to rip it all up and redo it. So this would cover that. There's a lot of gas lines and drainage lines and storm drains. So that's why the number is so high. Everybody just says to me, just rip it out and throw asphalt down. It's not that simple.
Katie, is this all, sorry, both those last two projects, the ramp and the drain, is that all third party doing that work? Or is the DPW gonna do?
Yeah, no, that would be third party. My favorite one. So at Chandler School, both entrances, they created this great architectural entranceway on both sides. But nobody thought about the birds, so the birds have moved in and they're pooping all over the place, they're having a party. We can't keep up with the cleanliness of it, and birds actually, I learned, carry 60 different diseases. And the acid in bird droppings actually speeds up the deterioration of metals. So the whole bird situation needs to be addressed. Doing this, we would net it so they can't re-nest. And then we would put in these tablets that are around the edges, that will prevent the birds to go find a home in the trees. And keep our entranceways clean.
No birds will be damaged in the process.
Right.
We'll just have to find a new area to nest.
the maintaining of this in the future, so the netting has a warranty of 5 years. Pretty much once the birds move out, we could maintain it ourselves. The dishes that go up in the different various spaces, it's a case for $130, and it would be every 3 years that would have to change to those scent. They're like a pheromone that you put up there. So a case would last 3 years,
How much is the case?
$130.
Plover's like.
I was gonna say, what kind of birds?
Not over.
Not clover.
No.
Just sort of there.
This one is, we would like to do a line item for roof repairs. Every year, to help with the maintain, our buildings are in really bad shape. And so when I've come to a capital group before, they've said, well, you're asking for $25,000 every year. When is it gonna end? Well, we're hoping that this would just help get us to a point that we can maintain them. So I would hope that after 5 years, this would be over. Because then we'd just be at a maintenance point. Right now, we're in damage control and need to really take some action, so the school would need to budget some money, but to get us to a point that we're actually maintaining the facility, we would need that extra money.
Is this Alden School?
This would be Alden, this would be the this, all of the schools,
Oh, it's Alden School.
all
okay.
of the schools.
Aren't we on a program to fix, replace, repair, Pack and Alden roof? I thought there was a master plan that was started 2 years ago, and there were sections, right, A through G.
We had a roof assessment by Garland a
Yeah.
few years back, and they identified different phases of recommendations of where we should start. And I think we have finished one and started two. But we've had significant rain entering the building throughout our storms, even though we're in a drought right now, we've been lucky, and so we still have significant repairs that are needed in both Alden School, Pack, as well as Chandler. And then now that the middle and high school, I know it's our newest building, but we have to make sure we're maintaining, we've had some issues with flashing in different areas, so.
Yeah, and if you look at the building when you first show up to the middle school, high school, you'll see a blue line at the front. That's not supposed to be there. That's not a heater, that's asphalt shingles that blew on. And it's because it's a wide open space, it's getting hit hard with wind, and but where we need to fix it, we need to. Come at this with a different angle, we've come with a reactionary angle, and it's now time, like. You guys are paying for these buildings, maintain the buildings. Building a building and having it last 30 years and ripping it down, that's crazy. They should be lasting a lot longer.
I mean, are we still executing on that garden plan?
Yes. So we have worked on, so keep in mind as well, so we've worked on one section that we received funding for, from last year. And we are in the process of working on another priority section that took priority over another section because it started leaking into a classroom. So we've also had that happening. But also what we've come across is the same as everyone else. The cost of the materials and the work and the inflation aspect of it has really blown some of these projects out of the water. So our vendors that we work with put together an estimate based on their expertise as to what we think these bids are gonna come in at. And in the two projects we've completed so far, they both have significantly come higher than what we could do.
Yeah.
So on the first project, we had to pivot and we had to go rebid and do 2 of 3 sections. On this project, we then tried to also add in that section and we couldn't because it was just too expensive. We didn't have the money to do that. And then thankfully, we've just been allocated some market money to work through this as well. But we have sections going forward that would be the next priority sections as larger projects, but if we're able to start maintaining stuff, then hopefully we can get out of some of these things.
What's the number on the chart?
Yeah, it's just.
Yeah, what was the ARPA Because there was more than one Alden, or there was more than one roof repair piece. Is it the 50,000 that came off for our fund?
No, that came off.
That came off?
Oh, no. No, anything that's on here is still accurate. So
This
We-
is, yeah, but what about the money we just got?
that was for the onion field, the onion softball field.
42,000, there was also,
And then we got
There was-
water roofs that.
there was also 200,000, yeah.
Yeah, and so that's gonna help, that money is going to enable us to finish the first section that we haven't been able to do.
that's still, okay, sorry, I misunderstood.
So this roof repair is 50 grand.
50 every year for 5 years.
Thank you.
That's what we're seeing, that's in the chart with the 50,000,
This
it's
is-
every year for 5 years.
Yeah, it's over and above anything that we've talked about up until this point.
Sorry.
This one here, again, this is another, so. Each HVAC unit has a controller, which is brain and tells the unit what to do. And then down below in the building is another brain that tells that unit how to respond. And this line item would help, so those are all called controls, and controls are just computers. And they last between 5 and 10 years. This is to help with taking out the brains of the equipment and replacing it. Also, it could be drives for motors, anything with a lifespan of 5 to 10 years. I can tell you that we have 200 units in the school, HVAC units. So that's an awful lot of equipment. And that's what this line item's for.
What are the dollars associated with the HVAC? This one.
50.
50.
This is.
Is it 50,000, yeah, 50,000 of that per year for 5 years,
Every year.
every year, forever.
Well. Yeah,
Don't
unless
replace
they come
the
out with the new
effective-
technology.
Okay.
Alex, I have a question. Is the hydration stations off of the request for this year?
I think they're just further down in the priority list, Karen, so I think this is your top, this is your prioritized sort of top list, but there is another tail to this list that,
Yeah, we have our top priority list and our secondary priority list, and the Chandler hydration stations are still on there. I believe there are several hydration stations already at Chandler so that the students can fill their water bottles, but there are 6 more areas that need to be updated. And I think that when we have a list of backup items that are prioritized, what we always try to do is look for other funding opportunities whenever we possibly can. And so sometimes we're able to address some of the smaller items throughout the year. But the priority right now would be to do the Chandler hydration stations this year.
I was surprised by how expensive the filters are. So about $450 a year per hydration station,
No, 150.
150 a year. I thought they had to be switched out every 4 months.
3 to 4 months, yeah.
So 150 total, okay. And then,
No, 150 per filter every 3 to 4 months. But the
Yeah.
schools are shut essentially 2 months. So you're only changing them twice a year.
gotcha. The other question I had, and I think you've answered it, Dr. Klingman, I was pleased to see, and thanks to Mary for her hard work on the ARPA. We had those concerns last year that we weren't able to address some of those security issues. And I see again, through ARPA and through her hard work, we were able to accommodate and get some of those PA systems and security systems updated. Are we in good shape moving forward now on your overall plan?
I think that we are so appreciative of the support we've received so far, and I think that this year having the open classroom conversion has been so nice to see the classes that typically have met in the hallway with partitions to being able to be educated in the enclosed classrooms. I think we're in pretty good shape. We just applied for a federal COPS grant for additional security cameras, which we were not selected to receive that funding this year. And so Cheryl and the tech team are already trying to apply for that for next year. So I would say that we are in a lot better shape than we were 3 years ago, safety and security wise. I think we're still concerned about the number of cameras we have, and the cameras do, like the roof, get a lot of wear and tear, especially the outdoor cameras because of the environment outside at the DHS, DMS Steel Alden complex, but I don't believe we have any major items left except for our concerns about the Alden entrance, which we do not feel is the most safe and secure that it should be in terms of blocking access between Alden School and the middle and high school. And so we continue to work on that, and we're awaiting hearing about whether or not we may have been selected into the MSBA, the Mass State Building Authority, to be entered into the pipeline to potentially have a renovation or reconstruction. I know our space is limited down on that campus, but I think that's really the last hurdle that we have. But we certainly continue every year, technology changes and new things become available, and so at this point, I think we're in really good shape. We're safety and security wise, but those are just the last items out there. It's just additional cameras and that entrance to Alden School.
Thank you. And you just answered my last question, which was what the status was on our application for Alden. So it's still pending with MSBA.
We should find out in the next 2 weeks or so. And so as soon as I have any information on that that's official, I will share it. And so there is the beginning of December is when they officially make the announcements of schools that are accepted into the pipeline. So that will be the next information that I can share about that once we know for sure.
Thank you.
Do you have just any anecdotal information on, what the reimbursement rate is like for the building? Is it, I assume it's down from the 42% we got.
32%.
I think it runs around 32.
32.
32 to
And that's
40.
best case. Those are taking into account the factors that Duxbury doesn't always show up in building reviews on. Related to the components where they determine what your reimbursement rate is.
Do you know that what the reimbursement rate was for the recent Hingham project? Were you aware?
I'm just going to feel like it was 3%.
Yeah.
But I'm not certain, but I do believe it was in the low 30s.
33. Oh, sorry, I could have asked either one of you.
Okay. Any other school questions for anyone? Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Yeah. Appreciate it. Maybe you ready?
And you want me to go Zoom to show you my slideshow?
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah.
Alex, who's taking minutes tonight?
So, Frank is.
Thank you, Frank. So Frank, did you get my email with all the notes from the meeting with Katie?
I did, yes.
Okay, great. What I was hoping is that will help cut down on some of the typing you have to do.
I've already included as an attachment along with the school notes.
Excellent, thanks.
All right. Actually, Danielle, one question. Do you still use Is it still like iPad cards for like the K to two
So
classrooms?
the second graders are starting to use Chromebooks
Okay.
so that they can practice some of their keyboarding skills before they get to Alden. And K and 1 are still using iPads, and so we're keeping our iPads going with our current load as much as we can. And just replacing any single devices that aren't working.
Perfect, awesome, thank you.
Thank you.
Your capital definitions, I think should be capital rates 25,000 and under instead of 10.
Okay.
And then I think the bylaw definition of capital is anything over 25,000 over 5 years.
Okay.
So
And we, and finance does capital light.
Meaning,
Meaning we approve it, we vote it.
you guys vote, capital, okay.
Yeah.
Good
They
to know.
dumped it on us. Oh, we said, okay.
Is that, just curious, because I've been using that from prior presentations before I came, is
I'm
that
trying to remember
new?
when we updated that and the financial policies, was that?
I don't know, the website's tragically out of date, so
Yeah.
That-
I don't know, but yes. We do that. It's a separate article. Capital light is a separate article from capital. In fact, I just texted Danielle to get a copy of the request for capital light so that we'll have that. So I don't think it's in the. I can't find any of the beauty sheets, but not the detail on the capital in the book that I got.
Right, so we only put the presentation in there, and I believe the presentation is what is posted online. Last year's capital 5-year plan is on the FY 25 budget.
Well, I mean, the actual request, it's just easier to have, instead of just the beauty sheet, to have the actual, spreadsheets, this is what we want, this is what it's gonna cost.
Okay.
I would appreciate they call them beauty sheets, though.
I did appreciate
Okay,
that.
all right, glad to hear that. But I want an Excel.
I'm gonna use that from now on.
I only speak Excel.
Is it less than 25? 25 or less? 25 or more.
I think it's 25 or under 25,000.
Under 25,000 is.
Capital gain, like.
So with bird netting,
Bird netting, I just drop it down by like a couple dollars.
I would love for.
So now you have to go back to-
You could do the bird netting in one task and then the remediation, like.
Give them tips.
Another one.
No tips.
That's a great way to do it.
Well, the roof repairs are gonna end up in maintenance anyway, so.
Yes, that sounds like operating.
We do have a bird problem in this town. Overall.
You wanna get the screen control, is that gonna be managed from here or there?
She's gonna hook me up here.
We're getting her computer. There it is.
Good.
Yeah, Gene.
Oh, Lisa, can you email us the presentation or Danielle when you get a chance?
Yeah.
Would you mind emailing us
Yes,
the updated presentation?
we'll send that over.
This is the one that you sent out on the fifth, Katie.
Yeah, it's been edited quite a few times, so.
Do you mind emailing it to? Can you
To you
email
again?
out?
Yeah.
Sullivan.Betsy@gmail,
I got you, yeah?
BETSY.
Yeah.
I love it when I give the world my personal email. Shoot me a little word, but then I can get it to the finance committee at the time,
Okay.
please.
So I started back in June 3rd, so when I started, I kind of evaluated our team and created some goals. Our goals are gonna change every couple of years or every year, or as we hit them, then we'll change them. So our goal this year is to provide a safe, clean, healthy environment. Implement energy saving measures such as LED, weatherization. Access and prioritize updates to aging facilities, plumbing, electrical, HVAC. Increase our professional development and improve our internal and external communication about facilities department to the public and internally. So I did a little breakdown of what facilities actually handles. We have 63 buildings, over 850,000 square feet of building space. We please about 1,200 employees, a little over 1,200 employees. We have 267 HVAC units, 448 sinks, 403 toilets, 1 maintenance tech, 1 HVAC tech. I oversee, so everything in blue is funded, besides me, is funded by the school department. So we have an energy manager, who works for the school in the town. And 21 custodians, 2 groundskeepers. The town funds my position, the HVAC tech and the maintenance tech. We had 207 work orders this year. And we expect to see a 9% increase this year. Out of 105 days, we have only been fully staffed 69. This year in review, so some of our highlights is there are some garden beds that were, they pulled the dirt and weeds out and they put in some drainage. We have enclosed the classrooms, what the school department talked about. We upgraded some HVAC controls at the right building and replaced decking at the public bathrooms. At the Girl Scout house, thanks to the ARPA funds, we were able to install a handicap ramp and new trim on the building. Capital projects, we did the bathroom renovation, so I did a before and after picture below. We did $150,000 towards HVAC upgrades, $50,000 Resner unit at the water treatment plant, which we're in the process of. 250,000 classroom renovation and 198,000 senior center replacement. The 198,000 is only gonna cover one of the 8 HVAC units. But we're in the process, it's with the designers right now. Grants, we've gotten some, or we've applied for some grants, this year. We got approved for an energy efficiency incentive through Eversource. They gave us an incentive of 35,000, it cost us 84,000 for it, we paid for it out of our net metering. And so we have a 3-year payback for LED upgrades for the public library. The Girl Scout house, these next 2 insulation, so this is to insulate the attics of the Girl Scout house and the town hall. The estimated cost for the Girl Scout House was 168,000. And the town hall would be 63,000. These would be free. This would be through Green Communities. So it wouldn't cost the town anything to do this. Those we find out in January if we're getting accepted. This year for our capital requests, I put some other ones in my capital for years later, and I didn't bother mentioning them. Here, but I did put my top priorities here. So the library chiller, asking for 225,000. It's a 27-year-old chiller. We have had significant problems with it over the last 3 years. We've spent some serious money doing repairs. We're at a point now that we have two options. Our first option is we can spend $40,000 and do a repair that is not guaranteed. We could be in the exact same position 6 months, a week, 2 weeks from now. They will not warranty the repair. It is, the chiller is actually got a leak. And the control valve is not working. So we can invest $40,000 and possibly not have a chiller anyways. Or replace the chiller. My personal opinion is replace the chiller. It's already at end of life. So that's why I'm asking for that. At Ashdod, I just called it upgrades, so the men's and women's room petitions, the petitions were made out of metal originally, it's original when they reopened the building in 2000. So the petitions are starting to rust, so we would like to replace those with plastic PVC petition. The kitchenette, like this is a picture of one of the kitchenette cabinets that they screwed together to keep it together. So this would also involve new cabinets for them. New bathroom fixtures and new countertop in the bathroom. And then new appliances, so a stove and a microwave. Also to replace the carpeting for 25,000 for the Ashdod building. Again, the buildings was reopened in 2000. So it's 24 years old. And it also is not like your house, it's getting 24/7 usage. People are in there using the facilities. I also asked for the town side for a $25,000 line item. For the next 5 years for the town. I don't think we're gonna need it more than 5 years. To help with some of the controls, and other features that we have in town that need upgrading. And then irrigation sheds, we have between irrigation sheds and pump houses, we have over 36 of them. And they're falling apart. And this would be to start upgrading some of the really bad ones. And then from there, we would maintain the other ones.
Would we build those, or would you get like a modular shed?
So this is the funny part,
In fact, I did stream of consciousness.
Please.
the frame of the buildings are in really good shape. The foundation, so the footings, they're intact. It's the birds are eating them.
Sure.
And when they built them with wood and not plastic. So they're falling apart, they need some loving. And then Jim Savone from DPW, he had recently done some work and cutting back the trees away from. Cause some of the roofs have some rot, and need some attention. So he pulled back some trees and did some trimming for me. Anybody have any questions before I move on? So some fun facts for us, so we've done lots of studies in this town. We had a master plan done that 50% of the residents said that they want well-maintained public infrastructure. It's the most important to them. In the same master plan, they mentioned planning for long-term maintenance needs. And a 2013 capital assessment for 2 buildings for the school department. Immediate repairs cost in 2013 was $532,000. Of those $532,000 worth of items they mentioned, $184,000 of those were addressed.
Are the others still outstanding?
Some are outstanding, some are not. I only looked at the first priority, I didn't go in depth. In 2012, there was a library assessment done on all the mechanicals. And so keep in mind, it was built in 2000, so the building was 12 years old. The systems are starting to show signs of wear and age. In 1997, a survey of numerous maintenance and capital needs listed per property was done. I don't see that we have really been taking these assessments and just poking at them. We put them on a bookcase. But we've been talking about the need for maintenance since 1997. I'm sure longer than that. I also took the conditions, so I've been here since June 3rd, like I said. And one of the first things I did was start looking at blueprints and start looking at equipment. And so I found just these particular buildings, the age of the building. And then what the life expectancy, because a lot of folks don't know. And we have a lot of different equipment. We have newer equipment, we have really old equipment. So anything that's highlighted in yellow is at end of life. I will mention that at the sewer, we are getting a new rooftop unit there. So that with ARPA funds, so that will be addressed this year. But there is another rooftop unit there, and there are 2 split air conditioning units there as well.
Is that just the one at the high school? That's when you say sewer.
So behind the steel building, there's a sewer plant, yeah. So ARPA funded an awful lot of projects for us this year. We had a fire panel that failed at the police department, the right building. We did some pool grouting. We've replaced boiler vents, we've replaced blower motors. So this just lists a few of the items that we did. And that is the end for you guys.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. One question I sort of have is, the report card that you put together for the buildings.
Yeah.
Is that something you could share with us?
Yeah.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, I've only gotten that far,
okay.
but I plan on doing more.
Are you
But
gonna
yes, I
break it
can
down by
absolutely.
like system, is gonna like, are you gonna have like a score or grade for electrical, plumbing, HVAC?
That's my long-term goal.
Yeah.
Right now, our biggest issues are HVAC. That's the
Okay.
biggest problem. That's the biggest call we get.
Yeah.
So that was what my focus was gonna be. And then from there, take the next system. So probably plumbing. Cause that seems like a good one. But yes, I was gonna, sink, 50 years, this is when it was installed. So yes.
Perfect.
And we also have a work order system that as we get new equipment, as long as you keep up with it and update it, it will track all that for you. We were doing that at one point and then there was a pause. So we've started, like we put a new rooftop on Alden today, so I just updated the information on that. So that way in the future, if you ask me, I have it right, like I can just tell you.
That's great.
Alex, can I speak for a moment?
Yes, go ahead.
So this was my assignment, this particular department, and I just have to say, Kate, I just really have to give a shout out to Katie. I really appreciated the detail in what she shared, but also the initiative. Because she went backwards and took a look at all of these old assessments and a lot of the I guess the plans that were in the basement for the buildings and things like that, and did a lot of her own due diligence to get us to this point for this level of recommendation. And I'm hoping that we're going to be able to follow up with a lot of what she's offering, because I think it's reasonable and it's a respectable request to try to do some of these ongoing maintenance requests. that we've been hearing about tonight. So I just wanted to give a shout out to her because I thought that, I do think that she's doing a tremendous job and she's giving us some really good recommendations.
Thanks.
Thank you. Julie. Fran? Thank you, Alex. Finance Committee has assigned 3 of us to, work directly with, Katie. Because during our deliberations, we've, recognized that, this is one of those departments that's, been at the end of the line, getting the crumbs off the edge of the table. And we've been talking for years now at our town meetings and in all of our subcommittee meetings about the need for general maintenance of our buildings and property. Failure to do so costs us in the long run. I'm kind of surprised that your budget's 317.
No.
When you consider the number of buildings and the amount of property we have and the cost associated. Are you sure you've come clean with what you need? And I know there's a lot of pressure on this year's budget. We all know the situation we're dealing with where expenses and the revenue are going in the wrong direction. And, but seriously, if we really want to keep up with these buildings and to keep them, give them that longer life you alluded to, are you asking for enough to do that job this year?
I think so.
Good.
Yeah.
And also, I think some of the routine maintenance that we've seen kind of get moved to capital, we're trying to move it back into operating where it belongs.
Yeah.
We
Alex,
shouldn't,
if I could. Oh, sorry.
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, first off, I wanted to echo Karen's sentiments. Katie has been doing a phenomenal job. She is an absolute pleasure to work with. And she has been so responsive and has just been a wonderful asset to our organization. So I can't emphasize that enough. And Karen, thank you for recognizing that. Friend, to your point, I know we've had a lot of conversations at Fiscal Advisory and Finance Committee and everywhere else regarding the state of our assets and deferred maintenance. I just want to point out that we do have a number of existing capital articles on the books that have been previously voted. And so I sort of look at the requests for FY26 with an eye toward bandwidth and making sure that that we're not pre-approving too many projects that aren't going to get done in a timely fashion. So Katie has inherited a long laundry list of existing projects, let alone the day-to-day maintenance. And so while I do recognize that there's probably going to be a lot more on our 5-year plan as we work to put that together, I think she's got an awful lot of things that have already been approved ahead of her that still need to get accomplished. She's got her hands full.
I think that plays nicely into the operating question about whether or not she needs additional staff in order to be able to get to the projects once we give her the money to do them.
Yeah, and I couldn't agree more because honestly, and Katie, I'm gonna just speak for you. You can correct me if you feel otherwise, but you know, she and her staff encounter a number of issues during the course of the year that really she needs to have the ability to react and respond to much more quickly, as opposed to waiting to our singular annual process of making requests through either the capital program or the capital light program. If she had funding available in her operating budget, she'd be able to tackle some of these much smaller projects much quicker and not have to go through the process of these requests.
Do you think we'll get to a place where district-wide painting projects, things like that, will be rolled into an operating budget?
It would be ideal. I know that I've had informal conversations with folks from the school department, and you know, they have a large need. They have a lot of classrooms that have a lot of people using those facilities day in and day out. There's a big need for refreshing those buildings on a regular basis. In an ideal world, yeah, we would love to be able to have some in-house staff be able to perform those functions. It's, painting can be pretty costly to farm that out.
Costly, and it's probably like, just like anything, when you do it district-wide or you take it on, it's also going to age out all at the same time too, whereas if it could be part of general maintenance,
Yep.
it
Yep.
doesn't seem to hurt as much operationally probably and financially.
Right, and I don't mean to just sort of focus on the schools, because we have needs everywhere. You know, town hall certainly has some needs. The library has mentioned needs for painting, so there is no end of work orders. And it would be ideal to have somebody on staff who would be able to handle those tasks.
Anything else for Katie? Any other questions, comments?
I have
Yeah,
it's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot, and she's cooperated with everybody, and we have all come at her from 50 different directions going. Tell us, and she's been patient with all of us, so thank you for that.
And she's been indoctrinated into the bird problems.
About birds.
Katie, could you email me your presentation when you get a chance?
Yeah.
That'd be great. We'll just, so we can include it in the minutes and stuff.
Yeah, and you're gonna send me that too,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. And I'll update everybody.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's great.
Slack is just.
Can I ask a question while we have Friend and we have Betsy in the room? I actually do not remember ever having a curriculum request come through Capital. Am I crazy? Am I missing something? Friend, you were on it
They
as
said
long as I
09.
was.
I believe it was stated that in 2009, but my memory doesn't go back that far. Sitting here, I'd have to look it up.
And I also think that a lot of those requests were tied to technology since then. So, you know, and programs that would go with the newer technology. But no, you're not crazy. I don't remember, if it happened once in the last 30 years, then that's about it. That it was included, you know. I'm not saying it shouldn't be, it's a big number, but it's not a familiar ask, that's all.
Okay. That's kind of what I was thinking was no. And yeah.
We just, yeah, I think the honest truth is we haven't purchased a large curriculum.
You haven't done that big ask anyway.
Right, and we then, there were some of those curriculum reviews that you saw were. Potentially supposed to happen, and then we had a global pandemic, and so some of those got pushed up and moved around, and so. Now you had ELA and math happen at the same time, which was not initially. We have a rotating review of our curriculum, and so I think that did allude to that a little bit, but. We pushed to do them in the same time frame this time around, which is unfortunate from a budget perspective, but was critically important from a curriculum operating, selection process, for some areas where we have some serious
Does it make
challenges.
implementation easier if you're buying these curated programs?
I don't, that would probably be a question for them. I think I have learned a lot. What I would say about those reviews and the selections that are made and being in line, as Beth spoke about, with what DESI has on deck.
Yeah.
But more importantly, the ones that were selected, the math program specifically has this PD component built in, which is probably a more significant cost than the curriculum itself, but it's critically important to successful implementation. And I think that is quite frankly one of the reasons that one was selected. PD, professional development, the coaching, the teachers have access to coaches all the time and help them implement and facilitate the curriculum. And so that was a component that was.
It's like a consulting contract for in other settings.
But at least it's not hourly.
Do you happen to know with when you purchase a curriculum like this, isn't there an administrative role in the schools of curriculum and a director, does that become obsolete, or is that? Okay, I just didn't understand how it all fits together.
We have an org chart coming out, which is gonna be helpful. I think truthfully, in fairness to Beth, you know, you have an assistant superintendent, she's essentially responsible for all curriculum instruction.
Yeah.
However, she has a supportive team of curriculum supervisors. We have 2 K-5, and then you have subject-specific supervisors 6 to 12. They all work together, when a new curriculum is kind of coming in. So no, they do not become obsolete. And to your point, there has to be a management and a monitoring of, you know, ensuring our staff are able to and choosing to access resources that are available to them. And then consistency of implementation, supervision, all of those things, and that plays into the requirements, again, of teacher evaluations that are happening all the time.
One would hope
For the
one of the
requirements.
happy side benefits of a curated program is that you don't have 10 teachers doing 10 different versions
Yeah.
of your curriculum. You now have a
Consistent core.
you have a core curriculum, so that should be hopefully easier to monitor.
Yes, yes, and
Easy to evaluate.
And evaluate.
Yeah,
which
and
is-
evaluate,
and evaluate.
and all of the things.
it's also about horizontal alignment, to your point, you know, vertical's great, but when you have 4th grade, 5th grade, you know, we have these experiences where it's wonderful and teachers are very skilled, but they're also very different, and so. If you have all these grades receiving materials and instruction in different ways, how do you? Evaluate and determine, you know, the grade 5 stuff, you gotta do X, Y, and Z, and you need that to move on to grade 6, and so the hope is again that. But it's also very flexible, it was intentional, so choices and the things you use, you can get on the websites and review those, I would. Cause you have all sorts of extra time on your hands, but the website really is great at describing what they offer, and what's available and why it is flexible. Both, you know, both the math and then what is covered for ELA. And the curriculum reviews are also available. Do you want to do that?
Yeah, I know in the middle school, the curriculum supervisor has created parent focus groups that you have a choice to engage in, and that's been flexible in terms of timing to really help educate the parents to support the at-home learning as well, because
I was gonna say, is there a parents boot camp?
yeah,
Yeah.
there is, which is, you know, great, but the parents have to take advantage of that. It's there. Teachers, I don't think have an option. They have to take advantage of it, whereas parents, it's elect in or not, and, you know,
But
try
it's
to
also
figure out.
making sure all the families know that, and that's part of this process.
Okay.
Yeah, there's gonna be a bump, it's a bumpy road to implement a new curriculum, so hopefully we'll have great news. In
Well,
2 years.
I find it curious that on the one hand, the MCAS becomes sort of the criteria by which you have a more global awareness of where the schools are at. Which is a good thing. I mean, you're saying positive things about the MCAS in terms of a evaluation, perhaps more so of the school than of anything else. I do appreciate having a daughter education trained. Who feels that using that as a way to, if you will, restrain graduation is not a good task, which I assume most teachers in the school agree with.
And that went away.
Certainly wouldn't work for raising children. I refuse to raise you to the age of 18.
And then you just. Let it fly. Oh, man. How's that going?
Not our kids.
Do we have any minutes to approve?
I think we did. I think I read them, or am I confusing it with 2 other committees?
Just trying to.
Thank you very much for allowing us to tag in here.
Well, thank you for coming.
We got.
Maybe we can put a word on.
All right, they might be in my,
Yeah.
haven't,
I
I
think we
don't have a
need some.
download copy of the 11.
Let me take it out of my file. while you-
Friend hasn't asked anybody else to be sure to ask for now.
Yes.
You should have seen me last week.
Yeah. Yeah, well, you're looking,
Where did I put it?
everyone like to introduce Lane to the group.
Okay.
That was the 10-16 meeting,
I think it was 11-6.
11-6.
Yeah, so Layton, you've been off for 4 or 5 or 6 years now?
Yeah, I know what it is.
5 or 6 years now, so.
I have the
Layton was
draft
on
minutes.
when I joined originally and, it was very helpful getting me up to speed and very glad he's back.
I have the draft minutes.
Oh, you do? Okay.
If you have read them, can I make a motion to have them approved?
Yeah. Can I get a second on the 11-6 minutes?
Second.
Thank you.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstain? All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5-0-1. All right, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right, second. All right, all's in favor? Aye.